Simon, Simon, Simon. I shook awake. I'd fallen asleep in class. Again. My teacher, Miss Lawrence, was looking at me with slight exasperation. Her red locks bobbed slightly as she shook her head left to right. Sighing slightly, she continued the lecture, talking about old engineering feats, underground tunnels and the sort. I heard a few snickers around me from my classmates. It's easy to take sleep for granted when you get plenty of it, a fact I've become very aware of the last 2 weeks. I want those assignments on my desk by Monday, she said. And make sure you all get enough rest. She finished, with a pointed look at me. I took it in stride. It's not like it's my fault I hardly get any sleep. Hey, Simon. Fred, school boxing star and all-around good guy, yelled behind me as I was getting my bag out of my locker. You gotta stop dozing off like that, you're gonna get shit if it keeps up. Yeah, I know. What's up, anyways? You got a new girl you haven't told me about, keeping you up at night? He asked with a coy smile. I gave him a sly grin. Nah man, that sounds like a good problem to have. I scratched my neck and looked down at my feet. It's a bit embarrassing actually. He looked slightly concerned. What is? You know you can tell me anything, still haven't told a soul about the... He scanned the surroundings quickly, making sure no one was in earshot. Underwear incident in 2nd grade. He loved to bring up that example whenever he wanted to prove his reliability, which is unnecessary since it has never been in question during all the years I've known him. It's night terrors, I said. But it's more than that. I think they're over, but then they're not. I wake from a nightmare, drenched in sweat, heart racing, trying to calm myself down. Memories of the dream fading, and I see shadows out of the corner of my eye, moving away from me. I try and focus on them, and they fade into the background. Fred looks quizzical for a moment, then he asks, is it like sleep paralysis? I've never had it, but I've heard some really freaky stories. Nah, it's not that. I've had them a lot as a kid. You probably heard most of those stories from me. No, this is different. I can move while it's going on, and I don't feel the dread I've come to associate with sleep paralysis. It's freaky still, but in another way. I feel hollow whenever I wake up, like I'm missing something. It lasts all the way up to around lunch. Even in the light of day, the topic was getting on my nerves. Fred seemed to sense I was uncomfortable with digging too deep into this at the moment. Sounds rough, he said. Nothing a bit of practice won't solve. See you there? He asked, slapping my arm. You bet. I slapped his arm back. A few hours, and several bruises later, I was sitting out in my garden on the green grass, birds chirping in the background, late spring wind fanning my face and hair. Watcha doing? My annoying sister, Sarah, chirped up. Meditating. Same as yesterday. And the day before that. She loved to find new ways to annoy me. Currently it was asking questions she already knew the answer to, but that in itself isn't good enough. She needs to know I know she knows the answer. Watcha doing that for? To get away from you, scram. I snapped at her, giving her an evil look. She scrambled away, giggling all the way. Meditation, I'd started doing it a while ago, when I was still fantasizing about the idea of becoming a pro boxer, looking for any edge I could eke out in order to compete with Fred. It was supposed to increase focus in the ring. I bet it does wonders, but I gave up on it on too soon to figure. Now I'm doing it out of desperation. Maybe my night terrors were because of a worried mind. Meditation calms the mind, so maybe it'll cure this problem. I felt a buzz in my pocket. It's a text from Alyssa in the group chat. "You guys ready?" she asked. "Shit, is it now?" Fred responded. "I'll bring snacks." Henry chimed in, always prepared for pretty much any situation, no matter how unlikely. "Yeah, usual spot in 15? I typed. Alyssa, 1 year older than the rest of us, senior in high school, had a bit of an obsession with the occult. Well, obsession is a bit harsh, but she's fascinated by it, reading up on stuff, buying tarot cards, crystals, and herbs used in different rituals. She found some fortune teller/medium on Craigslist, and she badgered the rest of us to join her on her expedition there. Approximately 15 minutes later I approached the diner/convenience store named Shop and Stop, Fred and Henry already waiting by the rundown, faded exterior of the place who couldn't make its mind up about what it was. The shop is alright, got the necessities at a reasonable price, the diner on the other hand. Only one I know who haven't been running to the toilet for a week after eating there is Alyssa, and it's hardly fair to count her since she's some kind of freak of nature when it comes to dodging sickness, and most bad things now that I think about it. Where's our heroine, dragging us out at this ungodly hour to do God knows what, with forces and powers beyond our comprehension to witness, let alone understand? I waxed poetically at the two in greeting. Henry chuckles and adjusts his glasses, while Fred smiles and looks behind me. Tea was 3 hours before midnight, sun's last rays still sparkling. Hardly an ungodly hour. A playful voice behind me, coming closer, said. I turn around and see her, auburn hair playing lightly in the slight wind, eyes glimmering a grayish-green in the aforementioned sun, set over the barely visible freckles dotting her nose and visible cheekbones. Yeah, she's a real looker, and I'm well aware of that. She's the standard I judge other beauties by, and it's anything but a fair standard. My feelings towards her is more like that of a sister, only she's less annoying. Knowing someone since kindergarten kinda does that. There's days I've wondered, even fantasized about the two of us, once her blooming beauty was becoming apparent even to me. But I'd make it weird if I made a move, and she sees me as a brother as well, she's said it in the past. Considering our mission this evening, anything after noon is an ungodly hour. Henry, the only staunch atheist and unbeliever in anything paranormal, intoned. Despite his skepticism, he's the most easily scared of the bunch. Wouldn't be you if you weren't the last one here. I smiled at Alyssa. Fred came up to us and put his arms around our shoulders. All right birdies, let's get a move on. I've got a pizza with my name on it at home. It's very impatient, can't wait to see the insides of my stomach. We gotta move on, going towards the older parts of town, the shop and stop marking the end of the newer, better maintained parts of town. Henry glanced around nervously. So where'd you say you found this guy? Or woman? Or whatever? He asked. Woman. Alyssa responded, giving him a quick smile. Found her on Craigslist. She's a bit expensive but I think it's worth it. I've only tried cheap mediums so far, and the price really reflected the quality of their work. She huffed, looking slightly annoyed, then she turned to the group and beamed towards us. Good thing I got you guys to share the fee with. Henry huffed incredulously. You mean you got us to badger until we finally agree to do what you want? Fred looked to Henry. Hey, you let her talk you into this, no use complaining about it now. He said, not able to completely hide the slight tone of defeat in his own voice. I'm actually looking forward to this. I interjected. Not that I believe this is anything but a scam, but I'd say it's worth $25 for one evening's worth of entertainment. I'm curious to figure out what kind of tricks she'll use to try and trick us. Alright guys, that's enough. Alyssa said, looking at us, brow slightly furrowed. I want to do this with you, but if you're going to crap all over it before you've even tried it, you're just gonna ruin it. For me, for you, for everyone. Just have an open mind. She looked at us pleadingly. All right. I looked at her. The final reason I think this'll be worth $50 of my own money, is that on the off chance that this is real, I'd pay that sum several times over. Alyssa's entire being lit up as she smiled at me. That's the spirit, we're almost there. Simon. ZZTFFFZZZZZ static. Simon. The scream echoed in my ears. My balance is off, the world is shaking. Fred is shaking me, looking me in the eyes. Where'd you go, buddy? He asked, looking me in the eyes intensely. I looked to Alyssa, worry written all over her face, rarely seen wrinkles making an appearance on her face, Henry alternating glances at me and the ground, fidgeting with something in his hands. I don't. There was something. Over there. I said, pointing towards the side of an old, dilapidated house, overgrown weeds all over the lawn and house itself. The dizziness was starting to pass. There was a shadow. Something moved. I got all dizzy. It's gone now. Fred looked really worried now. Shadow? He asked. It's fine, just the sleep deprivation doing a number on me, I can handle it. We can do this another time, if you need to go home and rest. Alyssa chimed in, worry still apparent on her face. She'd been looking forward to this for over a week. She'd always put her friend's well-being above her own interest. I didn't want to let her down. It's fine. I'm feeling much better already. Here, take this. Henry reached out a hand with a piece of candy, meant to raise the blood sugar of those with diabetes. I bit down on it and smiled towards the group. Good as new, let's do this. They looked unconvinced, but agreed. This is it? Alyssa said, looking at the very same dilapidated house. Only one thing left to do then. I said with much more bravado than I felt, a sense of dread growing in me as I marched up towards the overgrown house.